Hey FlossTube, it's Paula. Welcome to my channel, Stitching in High Heels, where we talk about all things needlework and craft related. If you're new here, welcome. I hope you enjoy what you see. I hope you'll click the like button. I hope you'll think about subscribing and, as they say, ringing the bell to get new notifications when I record videos. For my returning visitors, welcome back. I'm glad you came back. I hope you also enjoy what you see, and I hope you're a subscriber. If you're not, I hope you think about it. Just trying to up the viewership and the number of subscribers I have. Although I do have to say I do these videos more for me to keep a record of what I'm stitching, because I've found that my record keeping in the past has been horrible. I also want to apologize for those of you who watched my last video for the number of times I said the word I'm definitely going to be more conscious of that. I don't usually do that when I speak. I was just rushing last time, and I think that was a big part of the problem there. So this is the second time I filmed this video. I filmed a WIPGO and WIP parade. For those of you who might be new, in the needlework industry, the term WIP is for work in progress, or a piece that we're in the middle of working on. So WIP stands for WIP. So I filmed about my main WIPGO board and my entire list of works in progress, and I went to edit the video when I was at work that night and found out that the camera had not saved anything to the SD card. So this is the first chance I'm having to record another video, and I think we're going to do it slightly different. So I'm going to go through, you'll see all my WIPs. I have 31 of them. And I'm participating in WIPGO, which, for those of you who may not know, is a bingo board style challenge where you pick 25 projects or 25 goals that you have, and you fill them into the board. And it's this has been created by Jessie Marie Does Stuff. I'll try to link her video below. And on the 25th of every month, she calls two numbers, and you work towards achieving those two goals in the month that they're called. I'm also doing another bingo style challenge. There we go with the see, I'm paying attention. I'm also doing another bingo style challenge that's part of the monthly magazine challenge Facebook group that's run by Carolyn Zook of C. Zook Stitches and Robin from Bird's Eye Stitches. And again, it's a bingo style challenge. You create a bingo board. They give you prompts, you fill them in, then you put those prompts and numbers onto the board however you see fit. So today is January 11th. It's a Thursday, definitely an unusual day for me to record, but I have the time to do it. And so instead of doing a regular WIP parade and talking about just my WIPGO goals, what I'm going to do is first I'm going to go through my BRRINGO projects. I'm going to start with the numbers that have already been called, show you those projects. Then I'm going to show you my WIPGO pieces that'll be worked during the WIPGO challenge for the year. And then I have I believe two projects that didn't make my WIPGO board or the BRRINGO challenge, and I'll show you them at the end. I hope to get work on all of these pieces and maybe whip down a little bit during the year. I just mostly want to get progress on all of them, because you'll see, and I'll tell you, some of them I haven't worked on in years for various reasons. Some of them I know the reason why. Sorry, my hair's a little crazy today. We've got some humidity happening here. Some of them I know why I haven't worked on them. There's particular things that are difficult. Some of them I don't know, so hopefully we'll get pushed through this. Also, I have some notes, so I may be looking down or over. And I've got a ton of piles, so hopefully we don't have anything crashing to the ground here. So let's dive in, shall we? Because I think this is probably still going to be a fairly lengthy video. So for BRRINGO, on the 1st of the month, and for the BRRINGO board, these can either be pieces you're already working on or new starts. So the beginning of every prompt is either WIP or new start. So all of mine, I chose WIPs because I want to get some progress. There's a couple pieces I hope to get finished during the month, and I'll point them out when I talk about them. I put them on this board multiple times. So the first prompt that was called on January 1st was WIP of your choice. So for that, I put in Garden Verses by Mirabilia, and here she is. This is what she's going to look like. Hopefully you can get a good look at that. And this is a piece I've been working on. I had really wanted to get it finished to be on the brag table at the Queen City Stitch Retreat last year, and I just didn't make it. She is an older Mirabilia, so she has no beads. Working her on the called for, I believe it's the suggested mushroom 28 count Lugana. I think Nora had her recommended for linen, but I think mushroom was the color that was suggested. I'm using all the called for threads except for the two metallic. The metallic that was called for was the old 284Z. And if any of you have been stitching for a while, you probably remember that awful stuff that came on like a sewing spool, and it was made by DMC. It was horrible to work with. So I subbed out DMC's Diamante, I don't know if any of us know how to say that, in a gold. And the other symbol in here for metallic had the metallic worked, one strand of metallic and one strand of a very dark brown. So the Diamante has a gold wrapped with a black thread, and I'm using that instead of blending my threads. She's still on the Q-snaps because I hope to get a little more work on her this afternoon before I head off to get my hair done. But here's where she is. And for the BRRINGO call, I worked over here in all of this purple. I got this whole big swag of purple finished. I got, here, I'll show you here. I got all of this down in here, all that purple. And I've done all of the background stitching over here with those columns and everything. I've got the piece of paper done. So really all I have to do is her right arm and her face. So I'm hopeful that she will be a finish this year, that I won't have to carry her over to next year, and that she should go fairly quickly. I think I'm mostly done with the metallic threads in, excuse me, in her, sorry, my throat's a little dry. I'm feeling much better. I'm well over the cold that I had that I told you guys about. But when I talk a lot, my throat still gets dry and scratchy, so I try to keep from coughing on you guys. So I hope to get Garden Verses done this year, and that she'll go fairly quickly. She's on my WIPGO board 5 times because she is a focus piece. So I'm really, really optimistic that I'll have her finished. So the second BRRINGO prompt was to work on a WIP or a new start that intimidates you. And for this one, I chose Holly and Ivy Sampler by Teresa Wentzler. And hopefully it'll focus on that border. So this border is all sorts of holly and ivy vines intertwined with a red ribbon. And I put it down with, hold on, let me get it up and I'll show you. So I put it down with, as you can see here, one of the bows done in the border, this outside gold done, and then some of the greenery. So hopefully it'll, not sure how to get this to focus. I got to work with this. So I put it down, and there's so much confetti in this border that it's really difficult to figure out, to count what color is what. If you've worked with Teresa Wentzler, you know she's a master of shading, but it does make it difficult when you're trying to figure out which stitches you've already done, and I'm not a good highlighter, and I didn't backstitch that area that I had worked in. So I think I have a plan. I came in, and for the BRRINGO call, I worked this internal border here that you see, crossed here, and then down. And on the chart, there are very faint lines that go up every few stitches between the two borders. So I think I'm going to work those stitches, which should give me a good reference point for counting, and then it'll make it much easier to work on the border. I'm going to say the same thing we all say when we show our WIPGO, our WIP parades. I really want to spend some time on this. It's a beautiful piece. I'd like to have it finished. So it's that fantastic border, and inside it's got some words from the song. Bear with me, I'm wearing my contacts, so reading is hard. The holly and the ivy, when they are both full grown, of all the trees in the wood, the holly bears the crown. And then it's got part of another verse. Oh, the rising of the sun and the running of the deer. And I can't. It's another verse from the song. Sorry, guys. I need to get the prescription updated in my contacts. And reading without cheaters with my contacts is tough right now. So that was Holly and Ivy. The January 3rd, we were to stitch on something that was sparkly. So I stitched this, which is a single snowflake motif from Shannon Christine's Winter Snowfall. And I forgot to bring the chart cover up here to show you the picture. But I changed it out and stitched it all in metallics. I used, excuse me, 3 colors of Krynek. I'm not sure if you can see any of the sparkle there. And I'll finish that into an artist trading card. Laura, Stitching by the Shore, is hosting an ATC exchange, a winter ATC exchange. You still got time if you want to join it. I'll link her video that explains it down below. And she's also got a Facebook group. Mailing date is February 1st. And these are little 2.5 by 3.5 inch pieces. So you've got time if you want to participate. She doesn't do a sign up. She has everybody mail her the pieces, and you can email her and let her know that you've got pieces on the way. And then she does the exchange and sends them back out. Again, I'll link the video where she explains the whole process. We did one in the fall. It was a lot of fun. People's creativity is off the charts, so I'm looking forward to that. But that's my first piece for that. I'm going to try to do 2 or 3. It depends on how much time I have. The stitching is quick, but for me, the finishing and thinking about how I want to do that is still a little bit longer of a process. Then on January 4th, we had to stitch on something that was going to be a gift. So I pulled out the piece for my second ATC, which is going to be this one, which is a cute little chart. It's by Stone Street Stitch Works, and it's called Coffee Corner. You can buy it off their Etsy shop that I'll link below. The cover chart, I'm stitching it in the colorway shown here on the cover, but they also provide, if you can see down here on the bottom, they provide a holiday version, which is red, and the green, it's instead of greenery, it's got a poinsettia. It's a little more holiday oriented if you wanted to do that. And here's where I'm at with this. I'm stitching this on 18 count perforated paper that the only 18 count right now, the only thing I could find it in was white. So I used ink and sponged it over the top of the paper. And there's where I'm at so far. This middle piece, the browns, they'll pop once I get it outlined, but it's a light brown and a darker brown. There we go. That's better. So you can see that a little better there. So that's as far as I've gotten with that. That should be finished in the next day or two. It doesn't really take very long to stitch. But again, the finishing for me, I've got a good idea for it, but the finishing will take a little bit. January 5th, we were to stitch on something that we were inspired to start because of how you saw it finished. So this piece, I didn't see this exact one, but when I was at the Queen City Stitch Retreat in October, several people had stitched small mirrors. They'd done them either over 1 or on 40 count or 20 count Aida. And after we came back, Amy from Kitschy Whips, who is one of the organizers of the retreat, she was so interested in this, and there was a lot of interest in it, that they started another Facebook group, which is called Mini Miras. And I'll put the information about that down below too. It's open to everyone. And it's for people who want to stitch Mira's, Mirabilia's, or Nora Corbett pieces over 1. So I chose Inkberry Holly Pixie, which is one I haven't really seen a lot, but she's only got one color of beads, so the challenge when you're stitching them small is the beads, because you can't use the regular mill heel beads that we're all used to using. You have to go to like a size 15 bead, check bead. So there's places to get them, you just kind of have to hunt around, and you may not have the exact color that is called for in the chart. So I started her, hold on. Sorry about that, I dropped my next chart cover. I started her over 1 on 25 count Lugana. This is a standard Zweigart color. I believe it's Vintage Clouds or Stormy Clouds or something like that. It's printed fabric with just a hint of gray. And there's where she's at. So I've got all of her wing done on this side, and I'm trying to get the wing on the other side done, which will complete most of the black. Then I can start putting in some other colors. So that's where she's at. Next up was a piece you would take, a stitch on a piece you would take on vacation. So I chose My Necessity by Heartstring Samplery. This is a sampler in her, let's see if that works again. Well, it didn't. This is a sampler in her coffee collection. And it says, "You're the cream in my coffee, you're the lace in my shoe, my necessity, I'd be lost without you." And I'm stitching this 2/2 on Winter Moon Belfast linen, which is a standard color, and I'm using Gentle Arts Cinders. And here's where she is. So I worked on this middle motif here. This will come out again. The BRRINGO call for today is to stitch on a monochromatic piece. So this fits the bill, and hopefully I'll finish up this row. The next row underneath it has a lot of stitching in it as well, but then we get back into words. So this will go pretty quickly when I pick it up again, I think. And even the more stitch intensive bands, to me, I think they stitch up pretty quickly. It's one color, you don't have to worry about changing threads until you run out of a thread. On January 7th, we had to choose a piece that was a chart that was in a magazine. And this, even though the group is the monthly magazine challenge, they don't require you to stitch pieces from magazines, charts that were in magazines. The group was started to kind of encourage us to stitch those kind of pieces. It was because we tend to buy magazines and then not stitch from them. So it is to encourage those, but it's not a requirement for this challenge. So for this, I chose Deck the Paws, which is it's an ornament from the 2020 Just Cross Stitch ornament issue. It's by Twisted Oak Designs, and it's this one here with the 2 dogs. So you'll see I'm changing up the colors in this to match the dogs that my husband and I had with us in 2020. We've lost one of them, but we still have the other one. So here's where I'm at. So it is a little bit slower going for me right now because I was changing colors in the dogs. As you can see, I've got black and white, which was Zoe, who we lost a year and a half ago, and then our other dog, whose name is Chica. So, and this just fits. Zoe was a Beagle Boston Terrier mix. Chica is a Sheepdog Border Collie mix. So this kind of, to me, as soon as I saw this, it looked like the 2 of them together and some of the playful ways they interacted. So I've got to stitch the little black and white, back stitch on the little black and white dog, and then I've got all the ornaments and the garland that's on the top. But hopefully this will be a finish. I've worked on this twice. I think I've got it for 2 more prompts through the month. So I'm really hoping to get this finished or almost finished. So it'll only take me a excuse me, a day or 2 to get it finished. The next day we had to stitch on a piece with our country's flag colors. So I chose Winter Quaker by Rosewood Manor Designs. It's stitched on blue fabric. There's a lot of white thread. There's little red birds and some other red accents. And here's where I'm at with this. I'm stitching this on the recommended, piles are starting to fall, the recommended fabric, which is a 28 count dwarf. And I think it's by Picture This Plus, and I think this is one of the blues that Picture This Plus is having trouble dyeing and maybe has discontinued because of changes in the dyes. So here's where I'm at. When I pulled it out and worked on it this time, I did this motif here. The challenge that for BRRINGO is to stitch 100 stitches on each piece. I actually probably stitched well more than 100 because I think I frogged this significant pieces of this 2 or 3 times while I was working on it. But I like how it came out, and hopefully I'll get this out again. This is also, most of these pieces are on my WIPGO board. Deck the Paws is not, because I'm hoping for a finish, like I said, this month. And another one of the pieces that I'll show you is also not on my WIPGO because it's also called multiple times, although it hasn't come out yet. But it's on my BRRINGO board multiple times, and I'm hoping to have it finished before the end of the challenge. So then on the 9th, we had to stitch on our smallest WIP, which again was Deck the Paws. Yesterday, we had to stitch on a piece that had the letter of your first or last name. So I chose Pumpkin Blossom Inn by Pinker and Pumpkin. It's a free design on her blog, and this is from, I forget if it was September or October that she released this one. I'll put the link down below. So that's where that is. That's what that piece was charted as. Now I changed up the colors a little bit. I belong to Laura, Stitching by the Shore. I belong to her Facebook group, and every once in a while she does a color challenge, and she'll put out a group of colors, excuse me, almost like a, looks almost like a paint strip or a color scheme if you go onto one of the paint companies' websites and ask, you know, they pull up colors together for a room. And so I changed the colors in mine to match the colors Laura put out. This was also started for her pumpkin birthday sale. And I'm stitching it 1/2 on a piece of Sand Dollar Verdal, which is a 40 count, and it's by Bestitch Me. And here's where I'm at with that. My folding is not great today. Bear with me here. Okay, there we go. Okay, so here's where I'm at with that. You can see I made the house blue. That's a variegated blue Victorian motto thread that didn't have a name. It just says blue number 6. The roof color here is another Victorian motto. The pumpkin color is a Victorian motto. And then this green down here is another Victorian motto. I wanted to use threads that I had that matched the color challenge. So that's where I'm at. I finished up this big pumpkin over here and started on the bird. I thought that was pretty good progress. Very happy with that. Took a little bit to get back into, I put it down for a little while and stitched on some lower count pieces, and it took me a little bit for my eyes to get used to it again because I don't stitch with magnification. I can usually get through with, I had my, is it the optometrist? The people who make the glasses, not the eye doctor. They made me a pair of bifocals because when I'm not wearing my contacts, I have to wear progressive lenses. And they made me a pair of bifocals where the bottom section is bigger, and that helps me stitch. It gives me a bigger area that's clear for close work, but still gives me the opportunity, because a lot of times when I'm stitching, I'll be sitting with my husband in the living room. He'll have the TV on, and he'll say, hey, look at that, or we'll be watching some sort of a sports event. So having the bifocals makes it easy for me to look up to see the TV and have good, the ability to focus well while I'm working on my needlework. Sorry to keep drinking, guys. I figures as soon as I started talking, my throat just dried up and got scratchy, and I don't want to keep coughing. So that's where we are, excuse me. that's where we are with BRRINGO. So I'll show you the pieces that I have left on my BRRINGO board. Like I said, Deck the Paws is on there a few times. But the other pieces I have on there are these ones. So I have Heirloom Nativity. And actually these pieces are all on my WIPGO board. So they're on my BRRINGO board as well as WIPGO. And my goal on my WIPGO board is to stitch 4 days. So to me, 4 days is 4 times that I sit down to stitch. It might be an hour, it might be 4 hours, depends on how much time I have that day or that evening. So here's what Heirloom Nativity looks like. It's by the Victoria Sampler. This is copyrighted 2007. Adjust my pile here. And here's where I'm at with this. Sarah, the Stitchin' Mommy, is stitching this as well. She's down on the next scene. I think she was actually on the nativity scene. I just finished up the shepherds, and I'm working on a couple of design work bands down there that are stitched in white. So these pieces aren't very wide, and the parts of the chart, maybe this will be one of my screen grabs. The parts of the chart that are not these scenes, they aren't necessarily stitch heavy. They've got some fun specialty stitches in them. So they usually go pretty quickly. So if I have 1 day during BRRINGO and then 4 days during the year, I should make some nice progress on that. Next up is Snapdragon by Nora Corbett. So I started this at the Queen City Stitch Retreat, words are hard apparently, with Kelly from Pages and Stitches. Her YouTube channel is Pages 3 Stitches. She'd been talking about this, and I said, well, hey, I've got it kitted up. If you want to start it, let's start it. So we decided to start it at the retreat. She's stitching hers on, I think it's a 32 count. I don't think it's 36, 32 count, very light mint green fabric. And she started, and we started in different places. So Kelly started working up here by the wings, so up in that area there. And I started down here with her skirt, and I'm stitching her on a piece of mystery fabric. I say that because I think I bought it maybe when Mary Jane's Cross and Stitch was going out of business. It's pink. I believe it's a 28 count, but I didn't have, and I think it's a piece of cashel, but I didn't have any information on it when I pulled it out of my stash. So here's where I'm at, and this will get another day during BRRINGO, and I think she'll get another 4 days during WIPGO. So that's where she's at. I see Kelly just put up a video. I'm going to go watch that later, so I don't know if she's got more progress on this or not, but that's where that's at. And this piece is the other piece that's in my BRRINGO board multiple times, but not in my WIPGO board, because I'm hoping it'll be finished by the end of January. So this is All Is Calm by Shepherd's Bush. I got it as a kit, and I'm using all of the kit materials. And here's where I'm at with this. So at the end of December, I had picked it up, and I filled in those 2 giant hills at the bottom. So I thought that was a job well done. And so now all I've got is the borders and the motifs and the words. So I think this is on my board a total of 3 times for BRRINGO. So that should give us a pretty decent opportunity to see a finish, or pretty close to a finish. So it only takes me a day or 2 after that. I believe the fabric is a 36 count, if I remember correctly. It's on the back of the chart. If you want to know for sure, go ahead and leave me a comment below, and I'll answer. And then, if you guys remember from my last video, so I'm actually doing 3 WIPGO boards this year. The I'm doing a regular WIPGO board, which we'll talk about today, the pieces that are on there. We've already started talking about that. And then I had 25 ornaments that I had previously stitched but not finished, so I did a board to FFO those. And sorry about that, guys. My husband called, and he's at work, and he doesn't usually call, so I wanted to make sure everything was okay. So, Shepherd's Bush piece was the last piece we talked about, so I hope to have that finished by the end of the month. And I was doing 3 WIPGO boards. That's what we were talking about. So the other board that I set up, I found a whole bunch of back between 2002 and 2004 when the Just Cross Stitch ornament issue came out. I think it might have been Silk Weaver at the time, but there was a place that you could get ornament cuts for the fabrics that were recommended for the ornaments in the issue, and all you had to buy was the 6x6, 8x8, whatever the piece was, that size piece was that was called for, which was great for trying different fabrics, or if it was a color that you didn't normally stitch with. Well, I found, I was cleaning out my stash, my craft area, and I found a whole bunch of those cuts that I had tucked in a shoebox and stored away and never done anything with. So I made another WIPGO board to stitch some of those pieces. So for all 3 boards, the numbers that were called for January were number 9 and number 22. So the pieces, I'm going to start with the ornaments that I'm stitching. So for number 9 was Paws Off, and it's a Dragon Dreams design. And my apologies, guys, I don't remember which year this was in, but here's this. I finished this one. This was a really quick stitch. I stitched it, I think, when the phones weren't busy, on 2 shifts at my 911 at the 911 center. So that's where that is. I think that's adorable. And after I came up with this plan with the with the 2 additional boards, I got thinking, you know, my idea for the FFO board was that I was going to get clean out, finally finish a whole lot of things that I'd stitched and never done anything with. Well, that's great, and I am doing that, but unless I get into a real finishing kick, I'm going to have 25 more that I'm going to have to finish. But you know what? If this plan works, it'll be a good thing to do for next year too, at least in terms of having an FFO board, right? And the other piece, the piece that's number 22, is A Little Joy by Just Nan, and this one is from the 2002 magazine, and there it is. So this one is stitched on a piece of check to gingham, as you can see. But if you see in the middle here, let me see if I can get close. That is a piece that's stitched 1/1 on 32 count, and then you put it in that little frame charm. So I have the suggested fabric, and I have the that little charm. So we'll give it a go. This one's going to be quite a bit of stitching, but I'm hoping that I can get a bigger chunk done than what I have now. And I didn't really set a goal on these. I wanted to get a good start on them, so if I can start them and finish them, that would be great. But if I don't get them finished, that's fine. And because some of the ones I picked, like if you watch my last video, some of them do have quite a bit of stitching in them. But here's where I am. I started one of the trees in the corner, so I've got some shifts coming up this weekend. That's kind of my plan. These are easy to take to work on while the phones are quiet. I shouldn't say quiet, while the phones aren't busy. So we'll see how far I get on that this weekend. But I'm pleased so far. I'm just really not looking forward to the 1/1. But there's not a whole lot of it. It's a very small piece, so keep your fingers crossed. So that was for my ornament stitching board. For my ornament FFOing board, number 9 was Peppermint Twist by Little House Needleworks. And here's what I came up with for that. So it's a pillow finish. And I had a bunch of these peppermint candy beads here. So I put that at the base of the hanger. I used 3 different size beads in this finish. The ones in the hanger here are size 8. And then down here, the big pieces of the border are size 6, and the smaller ones are size 11. So hopefully you can get a good look at what the edging is there. I just kind of made it up as I went, but I'm very pleased with how it came out. And then the fabric on the back is this, that I know I bought with the idea of finishing this piece. So that's Peppermint Twist, Little House Needleworks. And number 22 was another Little House Needleworks piece. This is the one, I believe it's called Bringing Home Christmas. And it's got the girl walking the dog. Bear with me here a second. So it's all stitched. Here's what she looks like. And then this is the fabric that I'm thinking I'm going to use on the back. So if you can see that, it's a little bit dark, but I think it goes. I like the trees with the border there. So we'll see. I don't know if I'll get to it this weekend, but I've got some thoughts on how I'm going to finish that. I don't think it's going to be a flat. I think it's going to be another pillow finish. And I've got some ideas for another edging. And all of 2024, I'm trying to use things that I have. So if I run out of a thread, I'll replace it. But I really don't want to buy any more charts. I really don't want to buy fabric. I mean, I've got so much. I've been collecting since I started stitching in, excuse me, either 1989, 1990, somewhere in there. So it's time, you know, I used to joke that I was collecting for my retirement. Well, it's time to really start using that. I love the things that are in my stash, and I really want to get them stitched. So the number 22 call on my regular WIP board is Siam Fusion by Sampler Cove. And this is an older piece. I think the copyright on this is 2008. And I'll be stitching this bigger piece here, if you can see it. So I know why I have such a small start on this. I'm stitching it on a piece of 28 count, I believe it's chalkboard, a dark gray linen rather than a black. And the only start and I'm stitching it with the recommended Soie Crystal silks, and that's the only start that I have. So 4 days on this is going to give me a whole lot more progress than what I already have. The only challenge is going to be stitching it in the wintertime with silks. Sometimes my hands are rough, and that's not as enjoyable as it could be otherwise. But I did start that. There were some challenges in my personal life, and I didn't completely stop stitching, but I really didn't stitch a lot, and that got kind of put to the wayside. So it's time to pick it back up. Number 9, the other number that was called is Winter Rose Manor by Brenda Gervais with Thy Needle and Thread. I know you guys have all seen this. Lots of people have stitched it. There's still quite a few people actually stitching it. And I know a lot of people have changed the color of the house because they wanted it to be more pink. I'm using the recommended Weeks Dye Works Conch is the color name. And let's see, rather than pulling out the big board, I'm stitching it on 18 count shale by Picture This Plus. 1 thread over 1 square, and I've been working on the house, so that's where I am. I kind of like how it looks on this. I kind of like the modeled look of it. The only question I have is that they use back stitching in the same color over here on the corner of the house to kind of designate that. I think I'm going to do something different. I don't know if I'm going to use a line of back stitching in the color of the roof or what I'm going to do, but I want to make sure that there is a little definition there. So far I've worked on that for 2 days. It's got 2 more days to go. So we'll see how that goes. I think once I get out of January and I don't have the BRRINGO challenge, it'll be a lot easier to knock out my WIPGO goals and maybe go beyond what I had originally chosen. I wanted to challenge myself and to see good progress on these pieces, but I didn't want to make my board so structured that I didn't have time to stitch anything else, because I am very much a stitch what you want stitcher, and sometimes if I have rules, I'll rebel, even if I'm the one making the rules. Doesn't make any sense, right? And then I just won't stitch at all. So I don't want to get to that point. I want to make sure I do keep stitching. So I think I've hit a good balance. We'll see how it goes. If not, I can Jessie Marie always says, your board, your rules, so I can change things up, or I can get through this year and try to do something better for myself for next year. So the rest of these pieces, until we get to the last two, are pieces that will be called on my WIPGO board for 4 days each. And these are in no real particular order, so we'll just go through them. So first up is English Garden Sampler by Teresa Wentzler. This is an older piece for sure, as are most Teresa Wentzlers, but I'm sure you've seen it. Lots of people have worked on it in the past. And here's where I'm at. So I've got a big chunk of the outside done, and I started on the fountain scene at the top. So you can see that. And I know there's two reasons that I haven't pulled this out, three that I haven't pulled this out. First of all, I got it as a kit, and I'm working it on the, excuse me, the kit fabric, which doesn't leave a lot of margin. Second of all, I don't know if you can see, but there's a ton of confetti, which works in this scene. It really helps with the kind of watercolor feel of the scene, but it also makes it very difficult after you've put it down for a while to figure out where you should be working. And the last reason that I haven't picked it up in a while is you can see I stitched this border here all the way across. See that? And there's a couple parts down here on the bottom where the peacock's tails come across the border. And it's going to take a little bit of thinking and maneuvering to figure out how much I have to frog out without ripping out the whole bottom section. So I've got to think about that. And I've got to figure out a plan to kind of figure out where I am. I know I have a working copy made, so maybe I need to go in and figure out where I am and get it highlighted and then go from there. Another piece that's going to be on my WIPGO board is On the 12th Day by Cat's Whiskers Designs. And this is a piece, I think this is from like 2006. You can see, you can do it either in individual pieces or all one piece, which I'm going to do it in all one piece. And I started this, I don't think it was last year, I think it was in 2022. There was a Facebook group started for 12 days of Christmas stitching because there's so many different options. And this was the one I chose. I've had this in my stash for a while. And I'm stitching it 2/1 on 32 count white opalescent Belfast with Weeks Dye Works Bethlehem is the thread color. And here's where I'm at. So maybe this will be a shot. So if you can see, that top wording is all over one. So I got all that done. And then I started, this top block is, I believe, yeah, this is going to be the drummers. That's the one I'm started on. So this isn't a complicated stitch. I'm not sure why I haven't pulled it out, other than I think it just got put away and it wasn't a bag that, project bag that was easily at hand, and I tended to forget about it. But if I can get a couple blocks finished, that would be, sorry guys, I would call that good progress for the year. Next up is Charlotte by Mirabilia. Here she is. She's not a brand new piece. I think she's from, well, her number is MD112. I think she was from like 2015 or 2016. And she was kind of the unofficial stitch along for the Queen City Stitch Retreat, which was held in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I started her at the retreat, and here's where I'm at. And so my struggle with this is that if you look at her, I tend to think of the deeper colors in her gown. And I'm a center starter, so when I started with these pieces. The middle actually are these pieces, if you can see them, right below her knee, and that really bright pink. And I need to just trust the process. And if you see people like Denise from Black Ribbon Stitch Studio, she's gotten a lot more done, and it is beautiful. So I need to just trust the process and keep going. But I wanted to start Snapdragon. I was visiting, so this is as far as I got, and it's not a bad start. I'm stitching this on a piece of greenish fabric from Jackson Fabrics. I'll link it below. They have an Etsy shop, and all their fabrics are made from a sustainable hemp fiber, and they're a 30 count. And it's really nice fabric to stitch with. It kind of has the look of a linen as opposed to an even weave, but it's not real slubby. Takes the color nicely. So here's where I'm at, and you can see that's all those really bright pink, not the deeper tones in her skirt that I stitched. So I'm sure if I get back to her and get another 4 days in, I'll get past that, and I'll like her again, because I really do love the design. This is Summer Quaker by Leela Studio. I'm sure you've seen a whole lot of people stitching this one because it came out last summer. She does have Spring out, which I know Laura from Stitching by the Shore has started. And she's doing a really nice conversion with greens in the border on Spring. And she's just released Autumn, which I may have to break my non-collection rule and get that to start it. But here's Summer, and I really like this one. It's got a really nice scene in the middle. It's got a nice verse. It says, live in the sunshine, swim in the sea, drink the wild air. So I really, really enjoy this one. And here's where I'm at. I'm stitching it on 18 count Latte by Fiber on a Whim. Latte is the recommended color. The model was stitched on a 46 count, not an Ada. But I had this, I think Laura's doing hers on a blue. People are doing it on different colors, and I really wish I'd been a little more adventurous in my color selection, but I still like how it's coming out. And here's where it is. I started with the center seam, and the nice thing is now all of this in here, this is the land here, and then these 3 rows of waves, that's all fill-in. So that's really good for if I'm at the 901 center or I'm just not in a mood to do a lot of counting. That's a good spot. I'm stitching it with 2 threads over 1 Ada square. I'm using all the recommended flosses, which are DMC. And you know, I really want to see some progress on that. I'll be happy to stitch on that when that number is called. Next up is Elizabeth Isles, 1799 by the Scarlet Letter. This was a stitch along or start along for, I think it was Brenda's birthday. I don't think it was Laura's. Brenda from Brenda and the Serial Starter. She had a landmark birthday, and this was a stitch along that was organized. So here's the piece, because Brenda's a big sampler stitcher. So I'm not going to stitch the whole thing. I'm going to do what Emily C is doing, and I'm only going to stitch down to this band here. I'm going to bring the border up. I really don't care about the words, but I love that big bird in the middle, so I'm going to stitch that. And this is on another piece of Jackson Fabrics. This one I know is called London Fog. The other one I couldn't remember the name. And I'm using the Floss Conversion by Roxy Floss Co. So here's what I've got. You can see that there. I do have one personalization in one of the carnations. You can see it's outlined by a darker color. And I'm going to leave it. I don't know what I was thinking when I started stitching it, because it really does not match the cover, but it is what it is. And I don't hate it the way it looks, so I'm going to just let it go. Besides, if I decide I really don't like it down the road, I can frog out that other color and start over. So we're getting there, guys. We have to be. I'm almost out of water. Okay. So, oh, this is, now I know why the chart is upside down. So this is the Loose Feathers by Blackbird Designs. And they did 3 pieces. They did spring, summer, and winter, I think. Or no, summer, fall, and winter. And they are. It's from 2011. That's the piece stitched all together, which is what I'm doing. I know you've probably seen this. Lots of people have stitched this. I'm using a piece of antique lace by Seraphim. It's I believe it's a 32 count Lugana. Oh yeah, that blows it way out. So let's go over here. And there's where I'm at. I've got the frame on the first piece done. I've got the whole alphabet done at the top. Now I'm working on the bird and the flowers in the middle. So this is a great stitch. The chart's easy to follow. I like the threads in the fabric. I'm using all the called for threads. I might have had 1 or 2 DMC substitutions, but I don't think so. I think I had most of them. And I can't wait to get back to that one. It's another one. I'm not really sure why I haven't stitched on it a lot. Next up is Christmas at Hawk Run Hollow. I know you've seen this. And I have to get back. Pam from Stitching in the Land of Good Enough and the owner of Stitch New England does a Zoom once a month to stitch on Hawk Run Hollow pieces. And I had some scheduling problems, which kind of prevented me from joining those Zooms, but I'm going to get back to them now that my schedule's changed up a little bit. And here's where I'm at. I'm stitching the second block, which is big house, lots of snow, mostly full coverage. And these blocks it's kind of deceptive when you see those big cover pictures. These blocks are 92 by 92. And when the full coverage ones, there's a lot of stitching. But it goes pretty quickly. I'm stitching it on a 20 count Aida. 1 thread over 2, and part of the challenge with this block, I'm also using Markup XP, so I'm taking the charts for the individual blocks. I bought the program before they switched to the annual subscription model. Excuse me. So I paid the one price, which I think is definitely worth it, and I really want to get to using it more. I just need to spend the time. You know, sometimes you don't want to spend the time on a learning curve with a piece of technology. You want to just pick up a needle and thread. So I do need to work with it more, because it's making this, like this fence down in here, that stitch up really quickly, because I was using Markup XP and it was really easy to follow because it highlighted my stitches. But I do want to get to use it more. One of the things that really attracted me to it was the fact that you can scan your charts in a PDF and it reads them, and I understand that was kind of a limitation with Pattern Maker, or Pattern Keeper, sorry. So I don't think it accounts for backstitching the same as Pattern Keeper, but they've got a really great Facebook group, and the developers are part of the Facebook group, and they listen to suggestions, and there's updates coming out frequently. So if you're thinking about it, I'd give it a try. I think they're still doing, you get a month's free trial. If you're looking for software, it might be worth giving it a shot. This next piece is Sir Thomas by Glendon Place. And I started this in November of 2022. It was released in 2020. What the cover piece doesn't show, and even showing you my WIP doesn't show, he's very sparkly. He's got a lot of beads. He's got a lot of rainbow gallery threads in him, so he's a lot of fun to stitch. And he's really sparkly, so if you like sparkle, he's a bird for you. So this is where I'm at. I did work on him a little bit this November, but getting to work on him for 4 days is going to be good. Like I think you can see some of the sparkle in that silver there. The blue down here has a bit of sparkle to it. I think it's a silk lame braid. So that's where I'm at. And I'm looking forward to seeing what 4 days will do for me on him. Sorry about that. I found another bottle of water. So I'm looking forward to see what 4 days will give me. 4 days of stitching on Sir Thomas will give me. I think it should be good progress. Here's a piece that I love, and it's not as hard to figure out where I am. It's another piece from a kit, and this is from 1992. It's another Teresa Wentzler, and it's called Father Christmas. And I believe this is either in her Christmas book, Christmas collection book, or the sampler collection book. I forget which one. You can get it in one of those books. I'm not sure if it's available on Patterns Online, where a lot of her charts are, or not. But as with all Wentzler pieces, you really ought to look in the secondary market these days. And here's where I'm at. I started this because at the time I started this, my Christmas tree. I was living in my own apartment, and I had a Christmas tree that was all pink and white, frilly, girly, Victorian style ornaments. And the main colors in this are pink and white, that kind of style. So I started in the center. You can see he's sitting, those are Santa's legs there, or Father Winter's legs there. This is an enjoyable stitch. It just kind of got tucked away, out of sight, out of mind, is the main reason that I wasn't working on it. I think this is either, might be 27 count Linda material. Looking at it, I don't think it's linen. But I definitely, now that I got my sewing machine out and working, I want to serge the edges a little bit. But definitely looking forward to 4 days on that one. 4 days seems like it should give me good progress without making me feel like the piece is never ending, you know what I mean? And the next piece I have, it is a WIP. I think I might end up restarting this. I'm going to go a little further on it and see what I think. But this is Day Surrendering to Night. The artwork is by Sheila Woke, and it's just charted by Diana Lair from Custom Crafts. And here it is. But this might be, the other thing I'm going to do is try to get this one into Markup RXP. It's a full coverage piece. I think that might help. But my initial start was on a piece of 28 count, feels like Lugana. And here's where I'm at. So I started working in 10 stitch, you know, blocks of 10. And you can see I got a little bit of that one wing started. So it's not too much if I decide to start it on a smaller count. I wouldn't feel like I was giving up too much work. So we'll see. And the reason this hasn't gotten more progress, I'm not sure when I started this one. I'm trying to think, the copyright on it is 2005. But I put it aside, and then I lost the chart for a little bit, including my working copy, and then I couldn't find the threads. It's been a little bit of an adventure with this piece. So I'll give it a couple days, see how I feel about it while I'm stitching on it, and then if I'm not caring for the fabric that I'm working on, I may start it over on a smaller count, like a piece of 18 count white Ada, or maybe even 20 count for a little smaller piece. This is Toys and Games stocking. It's out of the Better Homes and Gardens Heirloom Christmas Stockings and Cross Stitch book. And I started this for one of my nephews, probably the older one. He is now 17. He'll be 18 February. And you'll see how far I am. So I still love it. I'm not going to do it for him. He would kind of roll his eyes at me and give me the Aunt Paula. But I'm thinking if I stitch this one and maybe the Stitcher Studio from the same book, these would be nice for my husband and I to have, just to hang on the mantle at our fireplace. So I've got decent progress in it. I've got to finish, so that's where it is. I've got to finish back stitching the toys on that top shelf, and a lot of the wallpaper is back stitched. So I really don't have a huge amount left to do. I need to just pull it out. And it's on 28 count Mushroom Lugana. I think I just kind of lost interest in it. I kind of got bogged down with some of the back stitching for a while and didn't pick it back up. I've got 2 more pieces that are on my WIPGO board, and then 2 more pieces that aren't on the WIPGO board. This is Edith Wolford by the Silver Lining, and this is a photocopy of the cover. I lost the cover piece, so it's a pretty iris, and I love Mark Sastad did amazing work with flowers. I have a couple of his roses that I've stitched, made them into pillows, and the shading and the work that he does is amazing. And part of the reason that I picked this up was I wanted to see what colors he used to make the colors in that iris show up, because the thread list is kind of interesting. And it's been so long since I worked on it. I think this piece is 32 count Belfast, and it's antique white. And I think this direction is up. I'm not completely sure. So that's where I'm at. All normal, regular DMC threads, so it shouldn't be too much to pick out the threads and keep going. I think I've put the threads back in my master set. It shouldn't be too bad to pick up and get going with again. And the last piece on my WIPGO board is Earth Dancer by Marilyn Levitt Imlum, and this is from her Butternut Road design. She also does Lavender and Lace with all the angels, and Told in a Garden with some of the fancy ladies. So this is Earth Dancer. There's a companion piece you may know called Spirit Dancer. This is a younger woman, younger Native American woman or Indian woman. I know somebody gave the Virginia Stitcher a hard time for calling someone an Indian. I do have some Cherokee heritage in my background, and it's never been a derogatory remark for me, so please, no remarks about that. This is Earth Dancer. I have to do the fringing on her dress. Let me get her back here. And all of the beading, which is going to be a challenge. And now that I know a little bit more about beads, I may just sit down and see if I can order some smaller beads. I did her on a piece of 36 count fabric because I liked the color. But I wasn't thinking about, if you look in here, this is all beads in the front of her dress. So I wasn't thinking about how they were going to fit in. So I have to think about that a little bit. And I had heard about problems with the ultra suede. I know there are some people that just used floss to do the fringing off her dress. I did get a couple of ideas for a different fiber, so I've got some other things to try. If I was smart, instead of just leaving her on my WIPGO board, when I join Pam, Stitching in the Land of Good Enough, she also does a fancy folk Zoom. Where it doesn't matter what the designer is, as long as you're stitching on a piece that you would consider a fancy folk. That's the only requirement. So it might be a good candidate to sit down and get some of the fringing done on one of those Zooms instead of working on Garden Verses. And these next two pieces are not in BRRINGO and they're not in my WIPGO board, but I hope they'll see some progress all the same. First up is Blue Dreams by Barbara Anna. And I started this in a start along with Laura, Stitching by the Shore. She used more of a sunset color fabric for this, and I love how the blues are popping on it. I happen to have the called for fabric just in my stash, so that's what I'm using. It's I believe the color is terracotta, and it's looks like probably a 32 count Lugana, and there she is. So I've got some decent progress, and I love blue's my favorite color, so I'm sure I'll be pulling her out and working on her. Probably all it will take is maybe seeing Laura's progress, or just being in the mood to stitch on something with blue. And the last piece that I have to show with you guys is, this is just called Snowman. It's a Jim Shore kit, and it's done by Mill Hill, so you know there's a lot of beads and a lot of sparkle. And there were 4 of these. I have all 4. There's the snowman, I think there's a Santa, a reindeer, and a tree. So the snowman was the first one that I started. And I got bogged down with him. He stays in my laptop bag, so I always have a piece with me, just in case I need to, have time to stitch or something. So I'm stitching him on, I'm not sure if it's 14 count. It doesn't really look like 14 count. Might be 16 count Ada. Whatever came in it's pretty blue, whatever came in the kit. And that's where I'm at. And I had gotten to a piece where there was a lot of beadwork and it was requiring a lot of counting. And I just kind of got bogged down with that. But then I moved past it and I'm making good progress. I pull it out every once in a while when I'm at 911 and don't want to stitch on anything else that I happen to have in my bag. And that's it. That's all of my current works in progress. So my plans for 2024, like I said, I'm going to use what I have, minimize my collecting, work on the work on these pieces. I will be starting pieces. I'm not restricting myself from doing any starting. I belong to the WIP Warriors group on Facebook, which has a participation requirement, which is fine. They do some fun challenges each month. You can also just post your progress. But they do a categories challenge, which is a lot of fun. I'm not doing it this month because between WIPGO and BRRINGO, I've got my hands full. I can't keep track of another challenge. But they have, the 12 categories are, I think it's 12. 12 prompts are set each month, and then at the beginning of the month, they pick another letter. This month's letter is W, so some of these pieces will fit in there, and I can probably participate that way. You don't have to get all 12. It's kind of just some prompts and a fun challenge to try to get you working on your WIPs. So I'm doing the SWIWI group, which is stitch what you want when you want. I can't commit to not starting anything. I would like to work on these pieces as much as I can, get some good progress, but I know I'm going to start things. Like next month, I have an Autumn Lane Stitchery piece that I'm going to start that came in the Niceless box from Black Needle Society last year. And so one of my plans long term, I did get into the Queen City Stitch Retreat again this year in October. The featured artist is Autumn Lane Designs. So I've been wanting to start that particular piece from that box for a year now because it was in the 2022 box. So now I've got the little push that I need. I'm not sure I'll have it finished by October, but I want to have it to at least be working on it. It's fully kitted. I've got no reason not to work on it. So I want to get that going. And what else was I thinking that I wanted to start? Oh, you know what? I forgot to show you two pieces. They're sitting right here. And I don't have pictures for either one of them. So, full disclosure, these two, and these two are in my WIP board as well. So, this is, well, when I bought it, it was Mystery 9. It's a chatelaine. It's the King's Vegetable Garden. So, I think honestly what's kept me from working on this piece and the next one I'm going to show you, you see there it's on scroll frames. And I used to have a good place to sit and be able to rest the frame. I had a chair with some nice arms, and it was like a glider rocker. And it was easy to rest the frame on the arms of that and stitch. Well, I don't have that chair anymore. Where I tend to stitch now, I don't have a good place. So I need to either, I've been thinking about investing in a Lowry, which might be a good idea for me anyway. So it's either that or take this off the scroll frames, work in it in some Q-snaps until I get to the beading. So that may help. I also have to, actually it shouldn't be too hard to figure out where I'm at. I mean, I'm working, I know the last was working in this triangle here. So that shouldn't be too hard to figure out where I'm at. And we'll see what 4 days does. There's always Chatelaine Wednesdays, Amy, Fiber Arts Amy, and yeah, Kitschy Whips. Maggie, Kitschy Whips. They do, they stitch on chatelaines every Wednesday. So I could always join in their little challenge. And then the last piece I have is, and I've got fuzz on this, but this is, and I'll have to, both of these pieces I'm going to have to insert a picture for what they look like, because I don't have, I have the chart for this. This is Peacock Tapestry. Wensler, it's an older chart. I have the chart. I have to find. This is 2/2 on a 25 count. You can see I got that top border done, and I started on these leaves, which are this big tree that's in here. You'll see when I show you the cover art, and they're all confetti. So I have to be in the right kind of mood to work on a piece like that, and it's been easier just to kind of ignore it, so I need to get back to that. All right, so that truly is the last of my WIPs. Plans, I'm going to Queen City. I'm going to start in Autumn Lane. I'm going to work on these pieces. I'm going to try to keep up with WIPGO with my 3 boards. Try to keep up with the BRRINGO challenge for the rest of this month. I'm going to try to film more regularly. I'm going to hope for every 2 weeks. I don't think I'm going to be able to do every week. Things do tend to get busy. But, so this is going to kind of cover, it's Thursday. I was planning on filming this on Sunday until I didn't have my WIP video, you know, that whole thing. So this will be for this week. So hopefully I'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks for stopping by. Again, please feel free to subscribe. Leave me a comment. I love to hear from you. I'm pretty good about answering in a fairly reasonable time frame. I get notifications on my phone. If for some reason I don't get a notification about a comment, it may take me a couple days to go through and look. But I love to hear from you guys. Definitely subscribe, like, and I hope you'll come back. See you soon. Love ya.